It's the post-match phone-in. I don't know why I'm so chipper after what I saw yesterday, but nevertheless, it's the post-match phone-in, and we're going to be discussing Middlesbrough 5, Luton 1. And with me to discuss the ins, the outs of this game, and just have a good old moan like the rest of everyone. They're probably going to also have a nice little moan. It's my co-host. It's Mark Ryman. How are we doing this evening,
Yeah,
mate?
I've had I've had better evenings, although to be fair, there's been quite a similar feeling about a few evenings this season, haven't there? I mean, this one's probably up there. Um, yeah, I've been better. So I wasn't in the last post-match phone in because my boiler's packed in and my entire utility room or studio
Yeah, your studio.
is ruined. Hence me being out here instead. But I was rewarded with a 5-1 absolute nightmare on Saturday to talk about instead. But yeah, apart from that, I'm all good.
Yeah, talk about getting kicked when you're down. Good thing
Yeah.
you didn't have to pay to go up there because then you would have had the boiler payments and all the insides of your studio being ripped out, and then having to pay for that, travel there, back, and just frankly seeing an absolute stinker of a performance. Although the first half an hour was actually pretty decent.
Yeah, the first sort of 20, 30 minutes was okay. And then the moment that goal goes in, we decide that we're going to just give up down tools and not bother to do the basics. Honestly, it was abject after that point, and it was abject all round. I know everybody's going to have a moan today, and absolutely so you should. Um, I just think that for me, there are three things that kind of stand out here. I'm going to be perfectly honest. Let's start with the players. That kind of display, second half especially, but towards the end of the first half, is a million miles away from even last season. Think of Chelsea at home, 3-0 down in that game, and look at our reaction then. We down tools. I'll be perfectly honest, I don't want to see Ted Mengi in a Luton shirt again. I really don't. That man
I think he's got a case of the
clearly.
sulkies.
Oh, it's further than that. I don't know what he's thinking. If he wants to move, then playing the way he does, allowing people to turn him like that, he's not gonna get a move. He's not the only one. But unfortunately, the fight that is there in players like Carlton Morris is not the majority anymore. What has happened to that spine of our squad with a fight to it? The Hiltons, the Berries, the Lockyers, all of that has gone. Pelly's still in the squad just about, but barely gets a look in as well. Um, then there's the recruitment. For me, the last two windows have been borderline shambolic. When we have a look at a player like Walsh, look, he's does some good things. He's good at passing, but some of his defending is conference at best. And he, by rights, should have been sent off in that game. If the referee hadn't yellow carded Baptiste for a perfectly good challenge and actually saw the 2-footer that came in 2 seconds afterwards, he'd be off the pitch again. It's pathetic. Chong doesn't want to track back. We know how good he is going forward, but he doesn't want to track back. And we haven't got it right. The recruitment has been stubborn, and it's not taken into account the fact that we are now a bigger fish than we were previously. So short sighted. And then of course there's Rob. I think we all like Rob. We all like Rob, and we say this over and over again. I do believe he has got the best interest of the club at heart, but you cannot tell me that playing no defensive midfielder in that team was a good idea against Borough away. His strategy since the start of the season has been to try and play this half-baked possession style football that never materialised even last season, let alone pre-season. And now we've gone back to our basics at home, but apparently decided to throw in the towel away and still do the same thing where we're opened up at will. And his changes are reactive at best. Ugh, it's a mess. It's a mess. I rant over. It's just an absolute mess from top to bottom. And I think that, despite the fact that I think Rob will go, and I think it is time for him to go now, I don't think it's the only problem.
Yeah, look, you've hit so many nails on the head there. the craziest thing is, after listening to his post-match interviews, I don't even know if he's going to go. He sounds like he's defeated, but I don't know if the club are going to get rid of him. I won't believe it until I see it, really. Um, if he decides to, resign, that's one thing, but I don't know. He sounded
Yeah.
so defeated. He sounded like he was waiting to get sacked. Because the wording in his post match was, whatever the club decide to do, that is their prerogative, or
Yeah.
something along those lines.
The classic when a manager's about to be sacked. But you're right, none of us know what's going to happen. And let's be honest, one of the other things, look, 2020 have done some amazing things. Communication recently hasn't been one of them. And I think that regardless of what they decide to do, they have to clarify the situation at some point over this international break, because we can't go into 2 weeks' time with this all up in the air still. You would hope sooner rather than later.
Yeah. And just one more thing to add. You mentioned going into that game without a defensive midfielder. Well, you know what? Marv has just been called up for Zimbabwe. If he's fit enough to be called up for Zimbabwe, why is he not starting for us? Because without doubt, Marv Nakamba is probably one of our highest earners at the club. So that annoys me. Because you have
Yeah.
Marv in that team, it releases everyone else to go and have a good time and play their best, really. I don't understand it. I don't understand how when that lineup happens, when that lineup was
No.
announced and there was no defensive minded player, that pissed me off. I'm
Yeah.
trying to say it eloquently.
Right.
It it was a lineup of, when he said I'm going to make changes, those were not the changes I was expecting. Really wasn't.
You travelled however many 100 miles to get to Borough from Luton, and you see that line up an hour before kickoff. You're pissed off, rightly as well. But there's so many players. There's question marks over, like you said. I mean, Marv, who's been on the bench for the last 5 games or so, but not made more than about 10 minutes. Question marks over loads of players over the past 12 months. I mean, if you go back, I mean, there's Joe Taylor, obviously. There's the fact that Clark plays every game. There's the fact that Pelly doesn't see a minute anymore. Alan Campbell, Berry. There's so many players that we know could do good things in this team or could have done before they left. And they're either being completely, marginalised at the club, or they're gone. And Marv was one that he did trust. So, but you're absolutely right. He's going on international duty, which is absolutely even more crazy because that's where he did his knee in the first place.
Yeah. I don't get it. There's just so much in the way of things that need to be communicated better. Shall we get some callers in,
Yeah,
though?
yeah. Let's get started.
Yeah. As a reminder to everyone, if you want to call in, you can find the link in the chat by our bot, Nightbot. That will be saying, hey, call now. We'd love to hear from you. It will send you to a Discord server. It will take you to a green room. Don't panic if you can't hear or see anything. We will let you in. And we will announce you to the call-in. But we have the first person here. It's Simon. It's in Tom Lockyer we trust. How are you getting on this evening, Si?
Evening, side.
Oh, you're right.
Been better.
Been better, mate.
Yeah, been better. Listen, going into that game, I was like, I'll take a point. I think a point would be a good result away at Middlesbrough. I'd be really happy with it. And then I saw the team sheet, and I thought, what are we doing? Where's the Kraus? Where's the Nakamba in this team? Who's going to break up that play in the middle that we've been exposed on time after time after time after time in the Premier League, in the Championship? It just keeps happening. When the balls are going in, they've never had an easier time to score their second goal. He had so much time. Well, fantastic goal. Don't get me wrong. I thought all of their goals were decent goals. We helped them score the goals in a way with our very weak challenges. We look somehow, even though we have quite a lot of our defenders available at the minute, we look lightweight. We just look lightweight in the centre of the back. I've got comment. I'm going to get this out of the way. Woodrow should never start a game for Luton Town ever again. I'm really sorry. I'm not trying to down the lad. I'm sure he's a really nice guy. We say similar things about Rob Edwards. I'm sure he's a really nice lad, but at the end of the day, your money's earned on the football pitch. And he's just not taking his chances. I know people go, oh, he's only come on as a sub here and there, blah, blah, blah. He's had over 60 appearances for us since coming back in 22-23. Yeah, he's had a lot of chances. He shouldn't be starting for us. I don't think he's up to the standard. I think that experiment's failed. You need to reevaluate it.
Yeah, well said about Woodrow.
But why are
It's
we?
a shame.
Why are we experimenting though? Why are we experimenting? We've got Brown on the bench. I get Morris needs a break. Fine. Eli's great start. Why on earth are we experimenting with a, let's be honest, Cauley Woodrow, who might be our slowest player on the pitch against one of the fastest teams in the league? It's not just him. It's the choice for him. It just baffles me. It absolutely baffles me.
I don't want to see the lad fail. I know that people on Twitter will know that I'm not his biggest fan. I've not been Woodrow's biggest fan for a while. I didn't want to see him fail. I was hoping that he'd prove me wrong, but he hasn't proved me wrong. And it's time for that particular thing to end. You need to go with your best players available. Walsh, I think he's a tidy player, right? I think Liam Walsh is a tidy little player, but my oh my, is he a bit reckless? He is, isn't he? Like that challenge after Baptiste got booked. He's so lucky. We could have been down to 10 there if he'd have seen that.
For me, he's so one-dimensional, though, Si. Like, he's great at the things he's good at, like passing, but you cannot just get away with being good at passing in this league. You've got to have that side of you. And I mean, it wasn't just that two-footer. Also, for their first goal, when he just fell asleep on the edge of the area.
Yeah, let the runner in, let Bergzog in.
Just like, you know, Clark's been doing it as well, but you've got to have more to your game. I'm starting to see, not apart from injuries, why he's played so few games for teams, because he's a bit of a liability going that way. He really is.
Yeah, it does seem like that. I don't know what the thinking was between Baptiste and Walsh. I'm trying to figure out in my head. They're both sort of attacking minded. You know, they're not ones for tracking back as your Nakamba, as your Krauses are going to do. It's surely one or the other. You can't have both of them without that balance. Very worrying. Elijah, again, is not having the best season of his life, if you ask me. He's not having the best season of his life. He's banged a couple of goals in recently, but he seems almost a bit lost without someone like Carlton Morris there to do the dirty work. Because normally you'd think the 6'4" striker is going to be the one doing that dirty work. But it's a bit weird because Elijah sometimes gets the credit for the hard work that Morris does do. And it's a bit baffling. Elijah's he's always been a bit off and on. I'm perplexed. That's the best word I could put for what's going on. I'm a bit perplexed.
I was about to say the exact same thing that you said, that Elijah looks better with Carlton Morris. Long-term listeners of the show will know I am one of Elijah's biggest fans. And I think he's been good, especially the last few games. We won't talk about Coventry and we won't talk about Middlesbrough. Although he scored a goal, he looked good in that first half, you know. He does need Carlton Morris next to him. He was not getting anything by having Cauley Woodrow play alongside him. He really wasn't. And I watched on Sky Sports Plus, and I had a mate with me because I had my kids had a play date with some other kids. So I was watching it with the dad. He's not a Luton fan, but he was watching that first half. He was like, "Oh wow, this isn't good, is it?" And he actually pointed out Cauley Woodrow. And he said, "This guy's just marking space." Yeah, the space is beating him.
It's quite funny. I noticed that Cauley Woodrow likes to run like a headless chicken in triangles. He'll run in this triangle from one side of the pitch to the other, just near no one. Like he'll run in this triangle, not get close, and just repeat.
Yeah. And also he was miles away from Eli. We're talking about, Eli works better with Morris. Well, that's also because Morris is playing up front. Like, where the hell was he half the game? Eli was on his own up front for most of that game.
It was very odd.
Well, that's the
It
thing.
was
When
ridiculous,
Eli is isolated, like we saw with the one man up top, he was playing a one man up top essentially. He was playing by himself. And that is when Eli is not good, because he needs that other person to feed off. And Cooley was drifting, God knows where, didn't have the pace to recover to get into the middle. Sorry, I know it's about other people were meant to get their thoughts across, but I was fuming with that performance yesterday from Cooley Woodrow. Absolutely fuming.
It's pretty worrying. It's pretty worrying for me.
He's ahead of
How
Joe
much-
Taylor, and he was ahead of Jacob Brown.
Not only that, right? It worries me how reliant we are on the left-hand side of the pitch, right?
Yeah.
And how much we rely on everything to come out of Alfie Doughty, right? Because when he's not on the pitch, we are just not creating. We are not putting anything in. Aside from Hashioka got a couple of good crosses in yesterday.
He did.
And then we completely neglected that side of the field for 95% of the game.
So a part of that was when Liam Walsh was bringing the ball across, and Liam Walsh, you know, he's obviously decent on the ball, not good going back, but what he did, as he was running across towards Hashioka, he just had to beat his man over and over again. So he'd beat his man, he'd turn back the other way, and then send the ball back to the left-hand side. I thought that was probably one of Hashi's best games for us until he got pigeonholed on the left flank, which was stupid.
Odd decision.
But this comes back to what Mark was saying about our recruitment. How, you know, now that Bell had to go off because Bell's come back from a long injury layoff and Alfie Doughty's got out for God knows how long, we're left so threadbare. The squad is so unbalanced. There's no left backs. There's no right backs. The squad. There's nothing of the squad now. Like the window. I said it in my post match. You're 2 windows away from relegation, and the last 2 windows have been dog shit.
Very poor.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry. That's a better choice of words. Yeah.
It's been poor. And I've been a critic of that as well. You know that I say this, and I've got pelters because I was saying it in the January window in the Premier League. I was saying, I was like, look, we need to be ambitious. If we'd have retained that Premier League spot by being ambitious in January, who knows how we would be performing now? Who knows? But we didn't do that. We spent 2 million on Hashioka, who now has come good. I always said at the time, I think he'll come good. He's been dropped in at the deep end. That was true, you know. But we should have been more ambitious. We've ended this window with making more than we spent. What's going on? I know that we need money for Power Court. You've decided to go for the 25,000 capacity off the bat. I know that's going to cost money, but at the same time, you have neglected what we need to maintain where we are now.
I was going to ask, just while you say, I completely agree, Si, although I'm still yet to be completely convinced by Hashi, but yeah, he's a lot better than he was. Who are the 2 best wide players you think we've played against this season? Because the 2 in mind I've got. One of them played yesterday.
We get turned over by so many players these days that it's hard to pick 2.
No, we do. That's fair enough. Well, the 2 I would pick for you, right, is Ben Dokes for Borough.
He was great.
And he's a loan from Liverpool. And Ratsaki.
I know what angle you're going for here. You're going for why didn't we get any Premier League loanies?
Yeah.
Why I don't know. Why didn't we get any Premier League loans?
I'm not being funny. Rob Edwards was getting all these plaudits from Jurgen Klopp and Guardiola who said, "Oh, he's a brilliant tactician." Blah blah blah. Well, why didn't you send any of your youngsters down here this season to work with us then if you rated him quite so highly?
Yeah.
Well, why didn't we go for it?
That's why.
Oh yeah, it makes no sense because he was, you know, cozying up to all these managers, you know, laying Arteta, Pep and Klopp all, you know, blow smoke up his arse. But we got none of their, you know, talent this season. We got none of them.
No?
But I will state. Look, I'll do a video about it when/if Rob goes. I think Rob is, on a personal level, Rob is a wonderful person, and I'm sure the entire fan base want it to work out for him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we do, because he gave us the best day of our lives, and you know, me and Ryman, we're both dads, but I can assume like the day we got promoted to the Premier League was better than the birth of your kid and your wedding day.
I was bawling my eyes out in the stand, mate, in Wembley. I was bawling my eyes
exactly.
out. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, you won't put it. I know my wife doesn't watch this, so I can say it. It's fine.
My wife don't watch this.
All right. Listen, I've got one other thing to say. I think it's time Rob goes. I do. As much as I do want him to succeed, I love him. Great person. But it's a results-based game. I said it earlier on, but I decided to take it down because I didn't fancy having a certain forum on my back for a week. But we were brave enough to sack John Still when things in League Two were going poorly. We were brave enough to say goodbye to a club legend then, and we might need to do that now. As much as we all love John Still, as much as we all love Rob Edwards, sometimes the best thing that can happen for the club is to shake hands and wish each other well on the future.
Yeah. Well, like John Still, Rob would always be welcome back at Kenilworth Road.
Exactly.
Yeah, like the amount of times John Still's back at the Kenny, sitting alongside David Pleat. Rob would get like the red carpet treatment. He would, like without a shadow of a doubt, because he gave us the biggest day in our history, at least in my lifetime. I wasn't around in '88. Well, I was 2 months old, but I wasn't there. And that was the biggest day in our history until Rob Edwards got us promoted. But he's got to go prior to it getting sour. Because
yes,
John Still, I think, it was off the back of 7 consecutive losses, if memory serves, or it could have been more.
It was something like that.
Yeah, and it was getting sour. But fortunately, time has healed that. And John has said since, the club were right to relieve me of my duty. I'm sure Rob would, believe the same. Yeah. By the way, I saw Luigi in the green room. Luigi, if you're listening, come back in. We'll get you on after Simon. All right? Yeah. Any other thoughts, gents?
Yeah. Get Mark Robbins in at all costs.
You think Mark Robbins?
Yeah, I do. I think he's a quality manager. I think he's a manager who's shown that he can stay at one club for a long-term period for the vision, for the goal. I think that Coventry made a horrendous mistake in getting rid of him. Awful. I don't know if it was a terrible mistake for me. I think that he's exactly what we need. Pay the man what he asks, get him in, and we'll start going back in the right direction.
Interesting choice. Thank you very much, Si. Really appreciate you.
Have a good one, guys.
Have a good evening. Right. Ooh.
Gone.
Whoopsie. I'm back. Am I back?
You took yourself out.
I'm back.
Your voice is back. Your video.
Hang on. I'll sort it. Hang on. Technical difficulties. Nightmare. Yeah, hang on. I'm trying to turn my camera back on. I think I'm back, right? Right.
Back, yeah.
And I'm back.
Haha. Back on the
technical difficulties. Yeah. Sorry, everyone. I'm ill, and I don't think my brain is quite working the way it should be. But I'm here. And by the way, that is why there was no Luton Town show or Champ Chat for those watching, because I was really ill. My entire family are really ill. So yeah, But we're doing this tonight. So yeah, you also think Mark Robbins is a shout for you?
Yeah. No, I do. I think it's a really good shout for manager because, as I said, I mean, if they end up getting Lampard in, crikey, what a downgrade. But I think it goes further than that. As I said before, I don't think any manager is going to succeed at the moment unless there's improvement from recruitment and the board as well. That's my view. I think they need the back in. I think Rob might not have lost the whole dressing room, but he clearly can't find a way or a system that consistently works for us, and we should be doing a lot better. So yeah, no, I do think Robbins is a great manager, a great motivator, and he's a very good tactician as well. And I'm baffled by Kov's decision to get rid of him because I felt they were just turning a corner. All right, they lost to 2 very unlucky goals against Derby, but if you watch that game, I mean, that 9 times out of 10, neither of those goals go in the back of the net. So
it was a terrible, terrible decision. Do you know who my thought is for next manager if Rob were to go?
Is it the bloke from Lincoln?
No,
it's not the bloke from
no,
Lincoln.
Of course not. Because
You
look,
won't get.
we're too moral, and by moral,
Yeah.
we're not going to derail another club season. I believe that's a direct quote. But we also said that when we were skint, whereas we're moneyed now, but we're still not going to do that.
Lenny Lawrence.
No, I told you we can't get another player, another manager from another team. Hartlepool are never going to let us have him, are they?
Hartlepool are desperate to keep him.
Yeah. He's going to turn their season around. No, I think Scubula is a real up and coming manager, and you know what? He played Joe Taylor. That would satisfy all the fans. I see in the comments Simon saying she's dog. Now that's an interesting one, but no, for me, Gary Rowett. Oh, you look.
That is an interesting.
It is an interesting one
No,
because
I'm not
essentially,
convinced. I've seen it.
Yeah, like it's an interesting one because he is very similar to Nathan Jones. He even looks a bit like Nathan Jones.
Yeah.
And for now, for what we are in a relegation battle. So we need pragmatism. And he's no stranger to mixing it and getting his team sort of close to the playoffs. And he would tell the players exactly what he thinks about them. He would, because right now the team need discipline. They need someone to tell them, cut your nonsense and just, they need they need to hear some hard truths. Like you mentioned Ted Mengi. I know this is a phone in, but it's just become us ranting. He obviously agreed personal terms with Torino, and that is legitimate because it was announced by Fabrizio Romano. We've heard that the reason why it didn't happen was because of a loan option, so that's taking the piss. It is, because it's a player that, he's worth X amounts, at least 10 million because he's 21. He's got, I think he's 21 now. Yeah, he plays the England under 21s.
10 million.
Well, no, we'll be lucky to get, £10 from now. But that he's devaluing himself. And now that he's started doing this vlog, I don't understand that. Is that because he wants to be a content creator, or is he trying to improve brand Mengi? I don't understand it. But I said it in my post-match. He hasn't looked the same this window. As soon as the window closed, he looks like he's got a case of the sulkies. And it does my nut in. It really does.
Yeah. I completely, I agree because I said it at the start. I find it funny. I chat to a few people about this, about where we're at. We're in a relegation scrap, and a point here and a point there is good enough. By the way, I would have taken a point at Borough anyway because they're a good team. But saying we've turned a corner when we've managed to get a scrappy win against Cardiff, and had the most appalling quality game against West Brom, is just setting the bar so low. This is a team that at the start of the season, by Rob's own admission, we should be pushing for automatics. Neither of us believe we're that good, but we should be there or thereabouts. The levels that we've dropped and then we are asking ourselves to accept and take is unreal. And Ted Mengi is part of that as well. Like, I heard some people. I was having a chat with somebody on WhatsApp, going, "Yeah, but it was a great goal. Their second goal. If you're a Borough fan, you would say it's a good goal, but you just let him turn." Ted Mengi in the Premier League would never allow that to happen.
That was
Never
the
in a
longest
million
turn
years.
as well. Like, that guy turned like the Titanic
Ridiculous.
as well.
Yeah.
Great finish. It was a great finish. Did well to take the ball
great
down, shield the ball.
course.
I don't know what Ted Mengi was doing. I don't understand it. It was like he was playing in
Not bothered.
slides. It was like he was playing
Not
in
bothered.
flip flops, and he just couldn't turn at
Yeah.
all. It was mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pathetic. It's absolutely abject from a player that we know the qualities when he wants to. And look, let's be honest, he wasn't getting anywhere in Man U, and had some pretty average loan spells before then. We've turned his career into what it is. He owes us. We pay his wages. He's either going to play for us and play to his ability, or he can sod off to the youth development team until someone comes in for him. And for all I care, that can be Hartlepool United or somewhere else, because I'm sorry, his attitude stinks. And you know what? You mentioned Jones. I don't want Nathan Jones back. I've already mentioned this before, but he would never have gotten away with that under Nathan Jones. We wouldn't have. We wouldn't. He'd be his contract be gone. So yeah. I'm sorry, but of course we don't know what happens behind closed doors. But the way he plays on the pitch, there's absolutely no way his heart's in it as much as it was last season.
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, he's contracted, so we can do whatever we want with him. Problem is, because the lack of centre backs, like, we have to play him. Also, for the people watching, so many of you tonight, if you want to get involved, give us your opinions.
Yeah.
Please jump in the green room. The link is in the description of this video. You can also find it in the chat section pinned to the top. Join us. We want to hear from you. We want to hear who, do you give Edwards more time? Do you think Edwards has another couple of games in him? If not, who do you want to see take over at Luton Town Football Club? Let's talk about recruitment then. So,
Yep.
I understand about the whole power court thing, and the priority is power court, but essentially the line from the club has been the whole time, we are moving to power court, regardless of whether we get promoted or not. So the money was always going to be there. Whether or not they had to borrow it, the club have always said they will refuse to borrow money. And Dave Wilkinson also said on our pod last season, listen back to it, he said the club will never borrow money. So how were the club planning on paying for power court if we weren't promoted? But ultimately, it is a case of that year's Premier League money, yes, 13 million of that went on the redevelopment of the Bobbers. Another, I think 2-3 million, 4 million went on promotion bonuses. But there's still a wedge there. And then we spent 20 mil plus on signings. But this season, I don't understand why. It was reported that we were in for Poku. Why didn't we take the money from Ogbene and say, oh, thank you for that money, Ipswich. Okay, Peterborough, here's the money for Poku. Because Poku is currently top scorer in League One. I don't get it. I don't understand why we were so resistant to spend money. I don't get it.
The whole thing reeks of bad planning for me. The idea of power court, I mean, lots of people have mentioned power court is quickly becoming the white elephant of Luton Town. Fine, I get that we would have had to spend more money by making the updated designs that we all see and love. They look great. And the fact that it's now 25,000 seater rather than 17.5, I think it was going to be an open on. But it's 25,000 seater in League One. How many seats are going to be sold at that level? It's ridiculous. That's the short-sightedness. If we a 25,000 seater for me only sells out if we're in the Premier League, or pushing at least towards that end.
I don't,
If
even if we don't sell it out though, it's not the end of the world. Most clubs only sell out 80% ish. I think
Sure.
we're going to be banking a lot on football tourism because it's going to be right next to the station. The dart takes what, like 10, 15 minutes to Luton Airport. People are always saying, and with a bigger stadium, more tickets available, we can make tickets cheaper. People are always saying, oh, yeah, instead of watching this game, going to Leeds away and paying £37 and travelling up there, I can fly to Italy, go watch a game in the San Siro, and instead of getting a Domino's on the way back, I can get authentic Italian pizza for cheaper. Like that could be the case. Cheap flight into Luton, go get a cheap ticket, go check out the new stadium. Like football tourism is a massive thing.
it is,
So I'm not
it is.
overly fussed about it.
But wouldn't you argue that football tourism is still only applicable to if you're in the top end of the Championship and the Premier League? That applies as well. How
Yes,
many people are going to want to watch a League One game? So I
true.
get what you're saying, but okay. I mean that apart, I get that we needed to spend some more money on Power Court. Fine. It's the last two windows. Even the first window in the Prem, I'm happy with. Yeah, we as you said, we spent 13 odd million quid on the bobbers, 20 million. But really, I thought some really smart decisions, like Ross Barkley, for example. Obviously, in hindsight, one of the smartest decisions that we've ever made in recruitment. But this season and the January before, for me, it just reeks of panic. It's not just being tight with the money. The fact that we left players so long and left things so late and blamed, the Euros and blamed something else and everything else, while other clubs like Sheffield United were doing business left, right, and centre, and then bought McGuinness for who knows how much it's going to rise to, but certainly a lot of money. I'm not suggesting McGuinness is a bad player, but that for me reeks of a team that with a bit of a better and earlier strategy could have done a lot better in that window. And like you said, I mean, Poku's one of them. The loans, we had
Yeah,
all of that option for
loads.
loans and didn't do it. It's absolutely mad. It really is. A team that's been in the Premier League, that you would hope at least that managers would trust their players with us. But, we didn't go in for Ratsaki apparently because of the £1 million signing on fee. And we didn't go in for, well, who knows about Ben Dokes? I don't think we were rumoured for him, but he cost a lot of money as a loan as well. I don't know the exact amount Borough paid for him, but it's a lot. But still, we've got the money there. And yet we're then giving Rob a 4-year extension on his contract with no players to back up. I mean, what did we expect was going to happen? I don't think for 1 second it should be this bad.
No,
But it was never going to be pushing for promotion with that level of recruitment.
no.
Really short-sightedness.
Well, we got
I
Matt
think we're
in
going to
the green room. So yeah,
go
finish
there.
your finish your thought, and then I'll have another
Yeah, no,
thought.
I was just going to say, I think we're going to pay the price now because the board now are going to be forced into a decision in January to start buying players and spend a lot more money, therefore undoing all of that, or not buy players and accept that we may get relegated at the end of the season because that is the choice they've now got, and that comes from that recruitment.
Getting relegated in the 1920 season, our first season, I remember Gary Sweet saying relegation would be financially catastrophic. Those were his exact words.
Mm.
Getting relegated now, with the players we have, the wages on the books that we have, now that would be financially catastrophic. A magnitude
God.
larger
Mm.
than getting relegated in 1920, first season back in the championship with the lowest wage in the championship. It's levels. It's absolute levels. An interesting
It
one
is.
here. Before we go to Matt, Lawrence Palmer. I don't buy this sack the manager rhetoric. No question, it's a bad patch. I really don't want Luton to become a sack the manager in every bad patch club. Gonna sack Pep. He's lost 4 in a row. Difference is Man City are second in the table, aren't they?
Mm. And also, let's not pretend that Rob Edwards has been at our club for 5 minutes. He's been at our club for 2 years, and he's been
Mm.
brilliant. But in despite the fact that we're in the Premier League, we have played a style of football that is predictable and easy to play against for teams probably since January. And that's a problem. It isn't just a few games in a bad patch. It's not just a loss. I think we'd all take a loss, wouldn't we, against Borough? But the nature of the fact that players just down tools is that should tell you everything about where things are with the manager.
You saw like Colton
opinion.
Morris's reaction to it. It was absolutely disgraceful at the end of the day. We just brought in Matt. Matt, mates, how are you getting on this evening?
Evening, happy people.
How are we doing?
All right, calm down after yesterday.
Yeah. So what's your take on what's going on at the moment?
I think yesterday was embarrassing. Actually found myself wanting them to score more and more, which is not a good place to be in. I think he's got to go now for his own sake more than anything. But I think a lot of this has got to be aimed at the board, if I'm honest. I really don't think they've helped him at all. And I understand the whole we don't want to overspend and we don't want to pay over the odds on players, but I think if they're thinking we got promoted once with a squad that wasn't that good, I don't think it'll happen a second time. In the same way that Leicester will never win the Premier League again.
Do you think recruitment has to evolve?
Yeah, if we want to be a Premier League team, we have to have better players than we went up with last time. That squad we had when we got promoted last time, on paper, was not a squad that you'd have expected to get promoted. I don't think. We got there because we had players that worked for each other, fought for each other, and some of those players have now gone, as naturally happens in a football team. And now we've got more individuals who don't seem to be fighting for each other. And if we want to go down that route, then we have to invest. You have to evolve. You can't do it on a shoestring every time. We've done it once. It won't happen again. It won't happen again. To me, that was a one-off. That was years and years and years of hard work building the club into the position they were in. And if they want to do that again, I don't think it will work.
Well said.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more with that. It's exactly what it was. It was a mentality built over years under Nathan Jones, and I'm not just attributing the promotion to him. Rob Edwards had a massive say in that promotion season. I don't buy people going, "Oh yeah, it was Nathan Jones's team." No, yes, it was mostly Nathan Jones players. I don't think for a second we'd have gone up under NJ. But you are right about that mentality, though, Matt. That was curated, and as I was saying at the start, so many of those players have gone out of the building, which, as you say, some of them will do inevitably. But we've clearly lost that. So we're either going to have to replace them like for like or get some more quality in.
Yeah, I would say we're in a transition period at the moment. I'd say at the moment, the club, for the last 10 years, every Luton fan has been so proud of their club and said, oh, everyone else would love to have a club like Luton because they do the things the right way and everyone's together. And at some point that was going to be broken. We need to work out what we want to be because we've got absolutely no identity on the pitch. Zero. Got no fight.
No.
I mean, I actually felt a little bit sorry for Edwards yesterday because even though the team selection was baffling, I mean, Brown should have started. He only played 60 minutes on Wednesday, so Brown should have started. But that first goal, Woodrow doesn't track his runner, Walsh doesn't track his runner, and as a manager, what can you do about that? I know there were two players that he put in there, but footballers, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter how crap you are, you should be able to track a runner. That's basic.
Well, it's just slow responses. That they are the two players that you picked out there that have like the slowest responses. Like when Cooley's doing the press, you sort of see like the head move, identifying where to press, and then his body starts to move, about 5 seconds after he's identified where he's got to run to. And Liam Walsh, look, I haven't seen enough of him yet to know what he's truly about, other than the fact that he can't tackle to save his life. No. But it is... I saw enough of him tracking Bergzog into that box It's awful.
I think we heard a Scouse accent and just went, oh, maybe he's as good as Ross Barkley simply because he's got the same accent. I'm just thinking that, yeah, his defending is utterly appalling.
Edward
really.
saw him play in the Everton under fives or something. It was like, wow,
Yeah.
this guy's so good. I think that's what Rob Edwards said about him, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think now's the time for him to go, because I think realistically, I'm not 100% confident in the squad we've got. That it's as good as people think, but realistically, as it stands now, we've still got a shot at getting in that playoffs. I know it sounds crazy, but we're only 10 points off it.
Oh, we do.
If you leave it till January. If you leave it till
right.
January, if you leave it till January, suddenly the job becomes less attractive if we don't get many more points. And you're then looking at a manager that's going to save us. Whereas now you bring in a manager that could still have a successful season.
No, look, Matt, you're absolutely right. Look at just this season, Millwall. They won 4 games back to back. They went from 20th, and Ryman backing them to get relegated to 5th in the table. Nottingham Forest, Steve Cooper comes in. They get promoted. They were second bottom. And Steve Cooper got them promoted. Middlesbrough, they were rock bottom. I can't remember who the manager was. But they were rock bottom.
Wilder, wasn't it?
Who? Chris Wilder. Yeah, Chris Wilder.
Carrick.
There you go. Yeah, Chris Wilder had them rock bottom. And then Michael Carrick took them to the playoffs. It can happen in the Championship because it's so compressed as a league.
This season's got to be one of the worst seasons for standard in the Championship for a long. I mean, there's no, apart from Sheffield United, there's no real standout team. I don't think anyone will run away with it this year. Personally,
no.
West Brom won't.
No, Sunderland won't. They're running out of steam.
Also, another reason why I think now's the time for a change, because if a new manager comes in now, after Hull, we've got Leeds away, Norwich away. If a new manager comes in and gets nothing at Leeds or Norwich, people aren't going to be like, get out, you're rubbish. But I think we can all see that Leeds could turn us over massively if we play like we did yesterday, and then it's just going to get.
It'll be a cricket score.
It's going to get horrible for him.
No, they'll stop scoring when they see us playing dead. Leeds don't do that. Like they should be putting 5, 6, 7s past teams, but they don't. They sort of smell the blood and then stop, don't they?
Please, no more.
It's like stop. He's already dead. It's that bit from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
You make a great point there, Matt. You made a really good point.
But yeah, don't ask me what I want because I couldn't tell you, to be honest with you.
Okay, I am going to ask you. I am going to ask you. So who would you pick?
A lot of people say Robbins. Yeah, he's done a really good job at Coventry. Whether he's going to want some time out, I don't know, because that's obviously going to have hurt him. But whoever we get in next has got to be a lot stronger with the players. Because you talked about Mengi down in tools and saying that would never happen under NJ. Well, if Mengi smells that Rob hasn't got that horrible streak to him, then he's not going to be scared to down tools, is he? It's like anything in life. If you're scared of your boss, you're not gonna down tools. But if you know you're not going to get bollocked, for want of a better word, then you've got more freedom to do it.
Yeah,
and I don't see Rob throwing teacups in the dressing room.
No, me neither. But I do think Robbins has probably got that about him a bit more than some people think. I mean, to be fair to Robbins, he got Coventry through however many periods of administration, changes of ground, and everything else. You've got to have some character to you to deal with all of that and still get the team promoted. So, he doesn't come across like NJ, but that's no bad thing really. But yeah, But you're right. I don't think there's any standout candidate. There's no one that everyone's clamouring for, really, is there? We're just all a bit sad about how bad it's got with Rob, because no one really expected that we'll be having these discussions this season, let alone in November.
A lot of people calling for Alan Sheehan.
Yeah, but I'm wondering whether as a club we're going too much on this getting the old people back. Whether we just need to stop. Whether we need to stop doing that now. we're not little old Luton in League One anymore. If we've got real serious ambitions of having this brand new 25,000 seat stadium in the Premier League, we may need to go. We may need to look outside of the UK for a manager.
Yeah,
Exotic.
I agree with Sheehan with the Sheehan call. Yeah, I think he's too inexperienced, as you say. There's too much risk attached to that. He's a good coach. We know he's a good coach, and I think he will be a good manager. I think the same with Robinson as well.
Stephen Robinson's been very, very well
and down.
trod. Like he's got a lot of experience, but does that
Not all of it
translate
good,
to
though.
being in the Championship? I know he's a name that's always chucked out whenever there's
Yes.
a manager idol at Luton, but no, I don't know. He's never been that great in Scotland, has he? He's been all right in Scotland.
He's had his moments, but yeah, you're right. Well, he's certainly not been consistently excellent. But yeah, I think it gets chucked out simply because it's an easy one for the bookies to put on because he's an ex-Luton player.
Yeah.
The other thing that frustrated me about yesterday, and this might just be me, if that had been the other way around and we'd been 2-0 up at home against them, would you have been sat there in the ground confident that we were going to win that game?
No.
Because
No.
why is it that we didn't come out in that second half and really go for them?
I know.
It's what happens every time. Whenever we go in 2-0 up in a game and the other team comes at us, like look at Cov. Cov went straight for us.
We'd have just sat back for 45 minutes waiting for the inevitable, whereas they clearly came out and went, get the third and that'll kill it, and game over. But that's not just been this season. That's been for years. We just don't seem to. Well, I was sat there thinking yesterday, if you were a Middlesbrough fan in that stadium at half time, you'd have been comfortable as anything, thinking they're never getting back in this.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it's just a mess.
It is a mess. Thank you very much for your thoughts, Matt. We're going to get our next caller in.
Good evening.
It's Matt. Thank you.
Right. So we have Rich coming in next. Evening, Rich.
Hi, Rich.
Evening. How are we doing, boys?
Yeah, doing all right. Thanks.
Yeah, getting there.
To be honest with you, a lot of my thoughts have already been echoed here. But I think there's one key thing that needs to happen in the next day or so. Rob has to go, or the board needs to come out and put a statement out of support.
100%. Yeah. We need some clarity, don't we?
2 weeks, they say 2 weeks is a long time in football. It could be a hell of a long time to be thinking about us going into a 3-game week with everything up in the air. And the last thing the players need as well is, going into that whole game with the atmosphere as it is at the moment. Because from what I have seen on social media, there does seem to be quite a big split between the in and the out camp.
I've actually stayed off social media to some extent, so I haven't really seen too much of it. Well, from cursory browsing, I haven't seen many people saying, "Oh yeah, give him time." But obviously, social media is just such a small facet of the fan base. But from people I have spoken to on WhatsApp and whatnot, and some people who would surprise you that have said, "Yeah, he's got to go." I'm not going to tell you their names, but
No.
Yeah.
I think,
but it is getting to that point. I'm sorry.
No, I think you're right. Sorry, I was just going to say the same thing. I think about 2/3 of people say that he's out, as one of the commenters online on YouTube just said. But you're right. There needs to be some clarity. But yeah, there's some of the rhetoric online about people having short memories and only started supporting Luton when we got promoted to the Premier League and all that jazz. I've seen that being wheeled out again for the however many times this season.
My other concern is, if we get this wrong, it could go catastrophically wrong.
That
I
is
mean,
that is a reality. Yeah.
You talk about this stuff with Mark Robbins and Coventry. If it is true that they are taking Frank Lampard over him, it is one of the craziest football decisions out there right now.
Yeah, it's purely commercial, isn't it? It's purely for brand, and that's Doug King's clearly his focus point there. But you're absolutely right. It's football suicide.
As has been said before, the recruitment has been horrific in the last 2 windows. I don't remember us. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Did we actually bring anyone in January?
Yeah, Taylan Harris and Hashioka. Remember Taylan Harris? He's the 18-year-old from Reading that never plays in the academy. I think actually he was injured, but he was going to be the next big thing. But with a lot of our youth, they're not getting a chance, and they won't get a chance. I just want mid-table mediocrity so we can actually try our youth out.
We signed Tom Holmes, I think, as well then, but we loaned him back out, didn't we?
No, yes. So we signed Tom Holmes. Loaned him
But we
back.
did loan him back, didn't we, for the end of the season? Yeah.
But the Hashi thing, he was hung out to dry yesterday, moving him to left wing back. It was crazy.
Yeah,
Crazy.
Doak was ridiculous.
But you can see why he's a Liverpool Academy graduate.
Well, yeah.
And why they think so highly of him.
Yeah, exactly. And Bell wasn't faring too well against him either, was he?
No, he wasn't, in fairness. But then you also look at some of the things that happened yesterday. Clark and Morris both got yellow carded, so they're both out of Hull. And the last 2 yellow cards for Morris has been because, for whatever reason, he's been unable to control his temper. The one against Cardiff was the epilepticness for the penalty that was never given, and I understand it. And yesterday, it just seemed to be that he just went in and he was the only one that had any spirit about him at half the time.
Yeah, you're also forgetting the one about what should have been a corner at Cov. It was given as a goal kick, and he yelled at the ref. It's not good, like 3 yellows for those things. And the tackle yesterday was obviously just him trying to leave a mark on someone. It's stupidity from a captain. Like, yeah, you want to lead in one way. He needs to be taking these players aside, grabbing them by the throat and putting them up in the changing room, being like, what are you playing at? Like, play like you actually, this club are paying your salary. Because that's, if someone performed this badly for their employer, you'd have words with them. It's just disgraceful. And I honestly run out of things to say about all this, because it's just so alarming. And every week it just gets even more alarming.
But the second half performances as well, just to add on to what you've both been saying, show that there is no motivation. We get worse in the second half in nearly every single game that we've played. We don't come out with any fight whatsoever. So there are clearly, I don't know what's being said at half time or nothing, but there's clearly not the motivation. Because, I mean, the first half was bad. That second goal conceded right before half time was a killer. But that second half was absolutely disgraceful. That was absolutely disgraceful. It was one of the worst halves of football I remember seeing Luton play in my lifetime, in terms of their apathy, in terms of their lack of interest. It was worse than Sheffield United. It was horrendous.
And Liam Walsh yesterday was horrific, in my opinion.
Yeah, he was.
Can't track back, can't tackle, can't mark up for a corner, for Christ's sake. He just let the man run in and bury it from, on the edge of the penalty area, and then just looking round.
Great dribbler, though.
Is that what he's there to do right now?
Yeah,
or is
I know. Yeah, and I'm just yanking your chain, Rich. It's
the decision to leave Krause out was mind-boggling yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, or any defensive-minded midfielder, not just Krause. But you're right. I mean, Krause was man of the match by a country mile for me against Cardiff. Did he come on at all? I don't remember.
He came
Yeah, but
on,
there's
4-0 down. 4-0 down, him and
Yeah,
Morris.
brilliant. What? Oh yeah, stick the defender on then. What's the point in even putting him on? That for me is utterly ridiculous. At 4-0.
those were the changes that were needed at half time. We all saw it. We all watched the game. We all saw it. And I feel so much pity and sorry for all those fans that got up at 5 a.m. to go up to Middlesbrough. And that's what they were given.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, to be honest, from that, we should have made 3 changes at half time, to be honest. So the only change was Bell for Moses. Well, Moses for Bell. Yeah, it's not good enough. Like, in our promotion season, Rob got a lot of the substitutions spot on. Absolutely spot on. Like, I can only think of one game that was an absolute error, and that was probably the West Brom game when we lost 3-2. But to be honest, that was more to do with Ethan Horvath than than Rob Edwards. Yeah, as I've said, I've run out of things to say, but we've been going for an hour. We should probably wrap this up. Thank you very much, Rich, for joining us, mate.
Thanks, Rich.
Come back anytime.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Right, let's get some comments from the chat before we go. Anthony Ware, Luton building a new stadium. Yes, it's going to be smack bang in the centre of town, 25,000 seater capacity, and it will happen. All the people doubting it, it will happen. You're like this one, Mark. I think you could have run out the under-21s yesterday and they wouldn't have lost 5-1.
Yep, couldn't agree more. Yeah. Just, yeah. Like I said, I can't say any more like you said about the second half. It was absolutely appalling. But, you know, I think most people are echoing what we've said, really. But, yeah, it's going to take a bigger fix than just the manager, but that's a start.
Yeah. Simon says, will Mark Ryman find his smile again?
When the boiler's fixed, mate, I'm freezing at the moment.
Right.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah. No, well, thank you all for joining us. As I said, I'm ill, so there was no recording at the Brickies this morning. No Luton Town show, no Champ Chat. Very sorry, but couldn't do it. Illness has ravaged my house. It's absolutely diabolical right now. We appreciate you all being along for, sort of like a group therapy session at times, isn't it, Ryman? Yeah.
Needed it this week, so I appreciate it, yeah.
And I guess try and enjoy international break, and football is obviously tied into mental health. So I know when your football team is doing absolutely terribly, it's very tough, but just talk to anyone if you can. If you don't have anyone to talk to Shout. You can anonymously text them and they will, check in on you, see what you're up to. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but, if you just Google Shout, if you do feel the need to talk to anyone and you don't have anyone to talk to, please just use Shout if you can. Because international breaks, when your football team, I know it sounds ridiculous, when your football team isn't doing too well, it can get quite depressing and you can have bad thoughts. So it's important to take care of your mental health at these times. But I think that's probably it, isn't it, Ryman?
Yeah. Well said. Absolutely. People need to find someone to talk to when things get tough. But no, I think we should wrap it up and let's have a very eventful international break. Possibly, we'll see.
Manager Idol, let's go!
God, please no, please no.
Thank you all for tuning in, and everyone have a good international break. And most importantly, I always forget, come on, you Hatters.